Now what will it be? Death or exile?
Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the TV Exiles. My name is Chris and welcome on this journey that we'll be taking over the next few weeks, reviewing each and every episode of Star Wars, The Clone Wars. No, we have not hit our head and travelled back a decade. It is back, the final season of Clone Wars, wrapping up that original story from the early 2010s. We're going to see all these characters that we know and love from back then, and as a huge fan of Star Wars and a huge fan of the Clone Wars, for me personally, the Clone Wars is the best thing Star Wars related we've had outside of the original trilogy. I'm super excited that this is back. Thankfully, I'm not alone to be discussing this with you guys. I am joined by another Star Wars, Clone Wars enthusiast, Brandon.
Hey, I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. So, how excited are you for the Clone Wars to be back?
I've been pretty stoked. It's been a while since I've been excited like this for Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, anyone following you on Twitter in the last few months will know how excited you are for this thing.
Yeah, it's been pretty transparent.
Just before we go into this particular episode, what are your favorite characters? How does Clone Wars rank in terms of the whole of Star Wars canon to you? What does the Clone Wars mean to you?
Well, I think Clone Wars is just kind of something special because, like most people, I ignored it when it came out. I thought it was a kid's show and had no idea that it became what it became until, I got into it right at the very end, and it was almost too late. But I was just completely blown away by what it became and how incredible its character work and world building became. Outside of the original trilogy, which is, you just kind of start that as the ultimate high. Like you said, I think Clone Wars is probably the best Star Wars property out of anything that Lucasfilm has done, or especially Disney has done. It really is remarkable, and it's so glad that it came back for one final season to close it out, and I'm really excited moving forward.
Yeah, completely agree. I would say that Clone Wars started quite slowly, in my opinion. Like the first, I'd say 2 or 3 seasons were pretty much just one-shot episodes. But then the deeper you get into it, the more rich and more mythological the storytelling becomes. And by the time you get to season 4 and 5 and 6, you're getting into like real deep Star Wars canon, which is real like world building and character building. It's just so wonderful to be seeing this kind of mythos grow, even from like episodes of younglings making their lightsabers for the first time, or going off to random battles and the interaction between Anakin and Ahsoka. For me, Star Wars, Clone Wars, the deeper you go into it, the better it becomes. And actually there's something to be said here about how perhaps unorganized actually the original series was back in the day. I mean, StarWars.com have released a chronological order of these episodes to be watched, and it's really strange when you I actually watched Clone Wars as a kid back on when it was on the Cartoon Network, and I watched them in the order they were released, and honestly it was confusing as all hell. You'd get like a couple of episodes of a story arc and then you won't see it again for another year. Like you won't get the resolution of that story for 12 months, maybe even 24 months. It's just absolutely bizarre. When you watch it in chronological order, it's it all makes sense and it's all tied up in it. And then by the time you get to season 3, 4, and 5 and 6, it's everything's pretty much sorted out and it's really good. How have you watched the Clone Wars? Have you watched it in release and in chronological order, or have you picked one or the other?
So I've always watched it in release order. The first time I didn't know, and then when I did my rewatch starting in December, I completely forgot about the chronological order on it. So I started with release order again with the animated movie. And, you know, as far as it goes, you have it all there when you're binge watching.
Yeah.
It's not as big of a deal because it's all there. It is every once in a while there are some weird time jumps that don't make a lot of sense. But again, it's just when you can watch 6 seasons in a couple of weeks, it doesn't really matter as much because it's so fresh in your mind.
I'd argue, going against that a little bit, I'd argue that it makes quite a bit of a difference because actually some story arcs are in the wrong order as well. So although you'll get like one arc with one episode missing or its resolution missing, actually some of the arcs being in the correct place actually matter. So I would say if you're ever gonna watch it again, or if any of our listeners are gonna watch Clone Wars for the first time, I would definitely recommend watching it in chronological order. And you can find that on just Google Star Wars Clone Wars chronological order. It's very easy to find.
Yeah, the next time I rewatch it, I plan on going chronological order.
Yeah, definitely do that.
It'd be really nice if Disney Plus would update it to be in chronological order on their app.
Make it easier to go through the episodes. Yeah,
it would really make it easy if you could just hit a play button and start going through in the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's all data, so they should be able to
Shouldn't
offer
be
it
that
up to you
hard.
both ways now.
I agree, but I mean, at the end of the day, like it's only a bit of a challenge, like a technical challenge for the first 2 or 3 seasons. Beyond that, they kind of find their footing and they sort themselves out.
It's definitely a first world problem, but
yes. Okay, so what we're going to do is over the next few weeks, as new episodes come out, we might do a rotating cast. You might hear from me, you might hear from Brandon, Paul from the film Exiles, who you'll hear on episodes of ENN, is a huge Star Wars fan as well. He'll probably dip into an episode or 2, but we're really excited to go through these. From going on forward from here, we're going to delve more into spoiler territory. So if you've not seen the episode yet, go check the episode out and then come back and listen to the rest of this review. What were your overall thoughts on this particular episode? This episode being The Bad Batch.
So I very much enjoyed it. It's got a very good feel. It feels like a 2013 episode. It does feel like the original season 6 as far as its storytelling goes. And that's because it was from the original season 6.
I was going to say there's probably a reason for that, right?
So it's kind of, for me, I think it is kind of a nice bridge. Normally, I would say this feels like it should be in the middle of a season. It'd be something to kind of break up the big overarching plots. But I think they've got their work made out for them to end this season. So I think it's smart to open up with this and again kind of bridge. And have you get that feeling that you're in 2013 Clone Wars still, that they haven't changed it.
For those who aren't aware, would you like to explain to people why this feels so much like a 2013 episode?
Yeah, so when Disney bought Star Wars and canceled Clone Wars, they had already done a lot of pre-production and even production on more of season 6, season 7, and even some of season 8. And there are 12 almost finished episodes, so they're probably about 2/3 finished, fully voice recorded, mostly animated but not textured, not finished, no visual effects. But you can go to YouTube and see all 12 episodes, and 4 of those are the Bad Batch.
Right.
So that's going to be these first 4 episodes, and it's pretty much identical to what it was, but fully finished and with its new animation and updated to what this season's going to look like. So it is the original team. It is a George Lucas episode. It is Dave Filoni. It's everything that Clone Wars was, and now everything that Clone Wars is.
And that's a beautiful transition, really. It really brings that original Star Wars feel back to us, especially those fans who have missed it for 10 years and perhaps aren't the biggest fans of what has come out since Disney took over. It's really, really great to get that original feeling back. You mentioned very briefly the look. Tell me about the animation, how the look and feel of this episode felt to you. Did it match what you were used to previously? Is there been a big departure in terms of how we might see this season going forward, or do you feel that they remain true to the original 6 seasons?
So pretty much yes to all of the above. It's gorgeous. It looks like Clone Wars. It's definitely the same art style. They didn't change any of that. It's very familiar, but you can tell it's been 7 years and the technology has grown vastly superior.
Yeah, I agree.
And especially when you watch seasons 5 and season 6, and you could tell the team they were really good at what they did. They were getting really cinematic, and there's some gorgeous shots in the final couple of seasons that rival anything that's in the movies.
Not only rival, I would say surpassed in some instances.
There's some that surpassed, but again, now they've got all the tools, and they've got the whole team together to be able to deliver something, and you can tell it is Clone Wars. It looks like Clone Wars. It feels like Clone Wars, but it looks like a very, very nice new paint job on it. The animation is gorgeous. The visual effects are gorgeous on it. It really is a step up, well, without betraying anything. It doesn't look like it's different.
Completely agree. And the episode opens up and we meet Rex and Cody, some of the original clones. We also see Mace Windu and Anakin Skywalker. And touching upon the look, I do see a little bit of a transition for Anakin. So his hair's more grown out. He's wearing black now. He's more in line with the look that he has in episode 3, the film. And I think that's an intentional decision to kind of bridge the gap between the Clone Wars and episode 3. Do you agree with that? And do you think that's a foreshadowing of what this whole season will do? Will it be to kind of bridge the gap between the Clone Wars and episode 3?
100%. It really does look good seeing Anakin with the long hair, so you know we're coming to the end. It's great visual storytelling. They never tell you how close we are getting to episode 3, but you can just see in Anakin's look that we're almost there.
Yeah.
So it is a visual storytelling cue that we're getting close to the end. And Filoni has always been faithful to the movies, even to the point where Anakin and General Grievous never actually fought or met each other in person at all in Clone Wars because of one line of dialogue in episode 3. They couldn't allow them to fight. Yep. So they've always been loyal to the movies and only expanded without ever stepping on the toes.
Yeah, Filoni is a true master, and he is basically George Lucas's apprentice. And this really does show throughout the whole original 6 seasons, and again touches upon it here. We do touch upon Rex and Cody in the start, and there is a suspicion that the Separatists have found out a way to assume the next moves of the clones in terms of their assaults and strategic moves. It appears that there's some kind of algorithm, but in the original discussion between Rex and Cody, there's a kind of suspicion that Echo might be alive. Echo being a clone who died in, I believe it's season 3, where they went to the Citadel to free one of the Jedi Masters, and during that mission they had some losses, and Echo was one of those losses, right? And he has been presumed dead for, the last 10 years, basically. We then meet Clone Force 99, and these are basically the Bad Batch, and they are kind of like a commando squad, but they're supposed to be clones, but they look different, they behave differently, they are more advanced, they have technical abilities, like one of them has super strength, one is a tech whiz, one has special sniper abilities. What do you feel about this new Clone Force 99? What do you feel about the Bad Batch in terms of characters, what they bring to the mythos of the Clone Wars?
So this was the kind of the only mix for me. Is, well, I did really like the Clone Force 99 or the Bad Batch. They were very cliche.
Mm-hmm.
They were the Ninja Turtles. They were you have the strong silent type. You have the big muscle bound. You have the nerdy one. It is cliche, but not out of the realm of cliche for Star Wars. So it wasn't intrusive. It wasn't stupid. It was very cliche. It was
a little
goofy.
on the nose. A little on the nose.
It was a little on the nose, and I can't.
And that's Star Wars, right?
Me as a Halo fan, I couldn't help but see Halo Reach with the Noble team, and you have the one big guy that's stronger than all the others and has bigger armor, and it does play into it well. It does not ruin the episode at all. It is on the nose, and you can sense it. But the team is very fun.
Who is your favorite?
It's got to be between probably Hunter. I just you like the leader, the strong type. He's not silent. He's outspoken, but he's in charge, and I did like that.
Yeah, Hunter was my favorite as well, particularly for the reason that he like the others knew he was more advanced and more, let's say, special than the regular clones, but he still respected the regular clones, and that's what I appreciated, that unlike some of the others who they knew they had better abilities and whatever, he didn't kind of disrespect Rex. He let his team know that Rex is in charge, will follow his command, despite knowing that I could do this better anyway. But he had a respect for these characters who we respect, right? I mean, the worst thing for me that could have happened was this new batch come in, completely disrespected the characters we loved, and they won anyway because of them, because they're so great. That would have felt a bit disrespectful. But Hunter is the character that gathered it in for me, and he felt like, okay, this is a guy who knows you respect your elders, let's say.
Yeah.
One of the characters that we revisited as well was General Trench, and really we've not seen him since, if you're looking at chronological order, we've not seen him since the first episode in a space battle with Anakin, right? What did you feel about bringing him back? Is there anything particularly interesting about having him back?
Well, I mean, it's cool to have him back. When you watch the original series, they do speak that he is a tactician and he's a very smart leader.
Yep.
So in traditional fashion, nobody is ever really gone in Star Wars. You never know when they might pop back up again. And of course, he pops back up and he's got a half of a cybernetic face on there, which is creepy, because spiders are creepy as it is, and then you make one a robot or a cyborg. Cyborg spiders are terrifying. So.
Yeah, because it was always assumed that he was dead, just like Echo.
Like Echo, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the inclusion of Trench was to throw us off the scent of Echo. So first of all, it was having this story of an algorithm, and then it was, okay, then you got Master Tactician Trench. This is the reason why they know our next move. But actually, we do find out that the algorithm was from a live source, and that source was from CT1409, who's better known as Echo. And that kind of brings into question everything we know about the surviving original clones, really, because, as we mentioned earlier, Echo was presumed dead at the Citadel. And those who have watched Star Wars Rebels will know that of the original clones that we got to know well, only Rex was a surviving member. And I suppose we'll touch upon these details and how it ties into Rebels as we go on through the series. What did you feel about the episode story, how it closed, the involvement of Echo and bringing him back into the storyline?
Well, it's a really cool idea that, the robots, they could be learning. I mean, you think technology as a learning aspect and that they're analyzing, and then, like you said, you have Trench, who's a master technician. You think, well, maybe he's figured it out. And in reality, they have somebody who worked, directly with Rex, and they built up all these battle plans. So he just knows, and they're stealing that information from him. So that reveal is pretty cool. I do have to break away and make a quick side note that as they infiltrate this base, there is a very long continuous shot that just shows how much the technology has grown with the show, and it just goes from outside the building all the way through combat, through the doors, and it was just immediately noticeable. You're like, that's longer take than many animated movies do, and it was really, really cool to see them say, hey, let's flex our muscles a little bit with this new engine we have.
Yeah, and I'm very appreciative of Disney for that. I'm vocally not a very big fan of what Disney have done with Star Wars since their takeover, but I do love Rebels, and I really appreciate the cinematography the effort they've put into the cinematography on this episode.
Yeah, so yeah, that was that needed to be mentioned, but it's I can't wait to see going forward, because there's a couple of shots in that trailer of like Obi-Wan standing in smoke with his lightsaber and it just moving up his arm, and you're just like, wow, that just looks phenomenal. Better than a lot of things, but I had to say something. But other than that, yeah, it's, there was the good surprise kind of twist ending that it was Echo at the end of the episode, and that leaves us going into the second episode of the season and kind of knowing where we're going, but not knowing what's going to happen.
Most definitely. And I'm definitely looking forward to discussing all of these extra elements you've mentioned from the trailers going forward in future Star Wars, Clone Wars episodes. Brandon, why don't you tell people where they can find you and discuss some Clone Wars with you?
I'm on Twitter at _meatball_84. I love talking Clone Wars, so drop a word, shoot me a message, and be happy to go over it.
Cool. And I've been Chris, and you can find me at Vinaldo7 on Twitter and on Vero. And we will catch you next time with another episode review of Star Wars Clone Wars. Until next time, stay exiled.